Hey guys, I'm trying a little bit of a different video for you today. I want to share with you my top scariest horror movies you may not have heard of to watch this Halloween. So if you're ready, let's get into it. Hey guys, my name's Mike. I do movie reviews every week here on YouTube, typically short form, but today, again, I'm trying a little something different. It is spooky season. October is in full effect. We're just a few weeks away from Halloween. So I want to share with you some of my favorite horror movies that you may not have even heard of. Now, if you've heard of all these before, I want to hear it in the comments at the end. Let me know. Please subscribe if you like these kind of videos. Leave a like for me. It really helps, but let's get into it. So I'm going to start this list back from a movie from 2001. This one is called Session 9. Now, this takes place at an abandoned insane asylum where a crew is hired to go in and clean out asbestos. And the building seems to have a presence or a life of its own. I really like this movie because it's very atmospheric. The acting is pretty great, but this is one of those movies where you just get the most unsettling feelings. They play this tape of a doctor speaking about a patient or speaking to a patient that they find, and it's just the creepiest thing. Like, that is ingrained in my mind as one of the creepiest audio clips I think I've ever heard. The story is very interesting as well about the hospital, the patients. It's almost like something is infecting them, but you don't quite know what it is. I don't want to give too much away, but it's definitely worth a watch if you just want a calm, creepy movie to just sit down and cuddle up with. Another thing I think was really interesting about this movie is that it was based at a real insane asylum, and shortly after the filming of this movie, that place actually burned down in real life, so you can't go there anymore. I believe it was the Danvers Institute in Massachusetts, I believe. But again, definitely one to check out, and don't quote me on all my research and everything, but this movie has kind of stuck with me for a long time. Again, it's called Session 9, and I would check that one out. The next movie I want to talk to you about here is called The Mist, and this one's from 2007. It's based on the Stephen King book, and again, it's a little bit of an older one, but this one has stuck with me, especially for the ending. I'm not going to give it away, but I will just say this is probably one of the most depressing endings I've ever seen in a film. It's all about a small town covered in some kind of mist, obviously, just like the name implies. And we see it from the perspective of the townsfolk that are stuck inside of a local grocery store, and what plays out, who wants to test out what's out in the mist, and all these kind of things. The characters are really well developed in that story. It's just, again, a creepy atmosphere that I think if you like that kind of a atmospheric, very tense type of film, not a lot of blood or gore really, especially towards the beginning. I can't say that. There's definitely some blood and gore in this movie, but it's not too bad. And the story is really, really great. Obviously, it's a Stephen King adaptation, so it's going to be good. But this one, again, is just one of those ones that's always stuck with me. The Mist, especially when you get to the end. If you get to the end of that one, definitely check it out and let me know what you think of that, because it is, man, is it unsettling. So I'm going to move on to the next movie from this one. One more kind of older movie that I do want to mention. It is a foreign film, so this is kind of like a bonus movie in here. It would be Audition, and this was a 1999 movie, I believe. It is an extremely slow burn, but Japanese horror, they are just on another level. So let's be real with that. And again, I'm trying to pick movies that you may have not seen or heard of before. This one is about a man that's auditioning women to basically be his girlfriend. And he finds someone that is quite unique. And it's just, I don't want to give any of it away. The funny thing about this movie is it does such a great job of building all this tension and such a slow pace over the first 2/3 of the movie that when you get to the last 20 minutes or so, that's when everything happens. So this may be a difficult watch, especially because it's in another language. Got to read the subtitles, but also you have to just know going in that not much is going to happen per se until the last 20 minutes or so. But if you can get over that, it's just so fascinating. This movie is very intense at the end. These movies are so hard to not give away because I want you to experience them for the first time for yourself. So watch this one, check it out. If you've seen it before, let me know what you think, especially of that ending. This is another movie where the ending is spectacular for all kinds of crazy reasons. The next movie I'm going to talk about is The Autopsy of Jane Doe. Now, this one's been on Netflix for a while, so you may have seen this one before, but it tells the story of someone that runs a morgue and their assistant, his son, And it's all about this body that comes in that has some kind of stuff going on with it. Again, not to give too much away, but it is a great piece that takes place all in one room, so it feels very claustrophobic. And the acting is spectacular in that film. Cinematography is great, and they do such a great job of keeping the story paced well, even though you're just stuck in one location. And it's a fantastic story. Lots of cool stuff going on, lots of creepy imagery. This one is very bloody. It's worth a watch if you haven't seen it before. Now, this one this may be the one on this list that you may have actually seen. But again, I'd recommend it. It came out probably about 8 years ago, and it's worth a watch for sure. Now, there's actually two movies on my list that kind of both deal with the same thing. It's kind of like family trauma. So if you can handle that topic, there is one called Relic, and there's also one called The Lodge. These have been floating around on the streaming services for a little while, but I'm not sure if you checked them out or not. But definitely know these are very, very heavy subjects going into these films. They are extremely bleak. The cinematography and the acting of both of them is pretty great. And the story is just dreadful. It's like just when you think it can't get any more dreadful, it just gets more dreadful. Definitely not one to watch if you're already sad. But again, these two movies kind of fit together in my mind just because of their topic. And they are scary just because of how sad they are. And subject matter, it's a lot of family trauma. And Relic kind of centers more on dementia, and The Lodge kind of centers more around religious aspects of it. So just keep that in mind. They're heavy topics, and it's what happens in these films are very heavy, but it is definitely unique. They are both very, very atmospheric and moody. And I think if you like that kind of movie, you'd really like these two. So the next movie I want to talk about is actually from 2023. So we're going to be talking about some newer movies that maybe you missed. And this one is called Cobweb. Now, this one I believe came out in the summertime just before spooky season. So you may have missed this one, but it would have been a perfect fall movie for sure. It is very Halloween driven, right? It happens in the fall. You see pumpkins and leaves. And it's about this young boy who hears things in his walls. Again, without giving too much away, it's actually a really good movie. I think a lot of people slept on it just because it didn't hit at the right time of year. I remember when this came out, it wasn't advertised very much, and there was other big movies that came out around the same time, so I don't think anyone really went to go see this one. But if you can catch this on streaming, I would definitely give this one a shot. Again, it's called Cobweb from 2023. It has a great story, a very satisfying ending actually as well, and definitely worth a watch. Another one that came out in 2023 was Talk to Me. This was A24's Australian movie that was really a surprise hit for me. Now, I'd heard a lot of talks about this one at festivals, but the marketing portrayed it to be kind of like a teen, campy, fun horror movie for that summer. And boy, let me tell you, this was anything but. So you get about a third of the way into this movie and you see how heavy this movie gets. And the story was amazing. The acting was incredible. This was directed by Raka Raka, who are some YouTubers that have gone their way into feature films now. And they did such an incredible job with this film. Everything about it was spectacular, and if you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend seeing it without giving too much away. There's family grief involved and trauma, and it's just such a great film all the way around. It's one of my favorite horror movies, I think, in the last 5 years since Hereditary came out. So I definitely give this one a watch. And finally, moving up to another new movie. This one is called Late Night with the Devil. This one just came out this year. Again, another Australian horror film. They're just really cranking them out now. This one is incredible. It sets up the vibe of a 70s late night talk show, and it takes place where they're competing against Johnny Carson for ratings in this show. And it is Halloween night, it's sweeps week, and they have some guests on that some crazy things happen. And it is just such a great show. Now, the way they shot this, and certain parts were black and white and certain parts were on camera, you see it as the viewer would have seen it on TV. It is spectacularly well made. David Dastmalchian, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He does an amazing job as Jack Delroy, the host of this show. And watching this movie is trying to figure out pieces of a puzzle. So you get snippets at the beginning that kind of relate to the end, and it really kind of draws you in. The visuals are outstanding. There's lots of creepy imagery. This story kind of gets under your skin. And again, I think this one sort of slipped under the radar for some people. So again, these are just movies that I think that maybe you have missed before, maybe you haven't. But I'd venture to guess that most of these that I mentioned here today, you probably didn't see before. So I'm excited for you to watch these. If you want to watch any of them, please let me know what you thought down in the comments, or if you've seen them before. I'd love to hear what you thought of these, if they're some of your favorite movies as well, or if you've got others. Of course, I was leaving out all the big ones that everybody talks about all the time, like Hereditary, Halloween, things like that. But these are just kind of films I would hope to encourage you to watch that maybe you wouldn't have watched otherwise. So subscribe if you like this video. This is my first long form video. I usually do short movie reviews, or subscribe if you'd rather see those as well. And thanks so much for joining me, and I hope to catch you in the next show.